Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks dive into South Carolina sports, football, hoops, the NCAA, everything that comes along with it.
Where our opinions are never filtered, sometimes reasonable, and always fun.
That's right. You can check out all of those takes that we have on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on all those platforms. Settle in, y'all, and let's get started with this week's episode of Alumni
Game!
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Alumni Game Podcast. I am your host, Sam Niedermeyer. Welcome, Gamecock fans. Wait a minute. Did I say I'm the host?
Wait, you're not the
Chop
host.
Liver over here?
Welcome back. Yeah.
What?
Mike, we missed you.
This guy's the
No, I
host
can
over
tell.
here.
You're like on autopilot, Sam. You got it down. But I am back. I got a little color. Had a nice little trip to Jamaica, I'm on. But yes, we are back. We're excited. We're talking combine, which is a big to do for a lot of these players, a lot of teams. And we are talking Gamecocks at this combine, which is pretty awesome. 11 Gamecocks invited to attend, double, any other year since 2013. So we got a lot of action here.
It's a sign of a healthy program, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah. I mean, shit. I would think that Beamer's going to be there. We don't have that official. We'll keep an eye out for him. Obviously, there's a lot of coverage. They should be able to catch him on camera if he's there. He probably will be there for recruiting reasons and to ship off all these players. And I'm sure some of these teams want to talk to him, right up until while they're evaluating. Obviously, the draft's a little ways away, so we don't want to mix things here. Like we will have a separate draft episode. Please feel free to refer back to this one for the draft because obviously some guys going to improve here. Some guys might not if the reps aren't there or the times aren't there. The 40 is a big one. We remember about that wide receiver from Texas from last year and what he was doing in the Super Bowl. So that was a big storyline from last year. But yes, 11 Gamecocks invited. Only Ohio State, Georgia, Texas will send more. So, I think that tells you two things. Those are all great programs. And we're getting in with them, at least, from a recruiting and talent standpoint. But also, those are four teams who are going to lose a lot of their best players, right? If they're all going to the combine, they're ostensibly getting drafted, and there are holes to fill. Obviously, all four of these teams can fill them pretty quickly, but the Gamecocks are going to have more challenge doing that necessarily than Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas, obviously. So all the more reason our new Gamecock of the Week is a great feature to check out. If you guys are liking that, let us know who you want to see, who you want to hear about. We'll have more of that going on. But getting into this.
What real quick, Mike. See, that's the reason why I missed you last week. That was such a great segue and plug for our Monday episodes of New Gamecock of the Week. Don't you think, Buster? Wasn't that effortless and flawless? Like that's why we needed him.
I mean, it's like it's melted chocolate. It's so smooth, it comes right off the tongue. I love it because what Mike is telling us, what people need to understand with that segue into the Gamecock of the Week. These guys that are at the NFL Combine, all 11 guys have, in some form or way, have come through because of the Shane Beamer culture at the University of South Carolina Gamecock football program. So, if we're looking at that from this 10,000-foot view, Shane should be there because he needs to be patting himself on the back because if it wasn't for him, these 11 guys, most in Gamecock history, only behind Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas, where would we be without Shane Beamer? So, yeah, Mike nailed it right on the head. So that's why he's the host with the most.
The host with the most effortless, flawless chocolate. I love it. I go away for 1 week and all of a sudden I'm needed more than ever. I got to go away more often, I guess, just so you know you need me.
Yeah.
But I think to Buster's point, we say things like culture and Beamer, and what are we really saying? Like, what does that really mean? Well, we look at this list and we'll go through some of these players, but there is really only one offensive player on this list in terms of someone who touches the ball. I'll talk about Rocket a little bit. We got an O lineman, but what is here? A lot of defense, a lot of coverage. Sorry, one other offensive. Sam will talk about a tight end. But I think for me, that shows like the offense is just getting going. We got a new OC. We'll see what happens there. But what is the culture of Shane? It's defense and special teams.
Yep.
And that is what this list shows.
Yeah.
There's special teams players.
There's
a lot of defensive players, the top end defensive players. And we all know that's what wins championships, right? I mean, you want to flash and you want to score points, but truth be told, if you're not running the ball and playing defense when you're going into the playoffs or the college football playoff, you're not doing it right? So that maybe what hurt us on the back end of last year, right? A lot of our defensive players weren't necessarily there because they were getting ready for this, and more power to them, because if they've stayed their whole career and they're seniors, please go early. You didn't go even earlier and go your junior year. But to even see special teams guys, and we'll talk about a punter on this list getting drafted, that does not happen a lot, and especially not homegrown talent, not guys that have been with us. Look, if you got a leg, you got a leg. But to coach that up and get that guy to the combine is another win. I mean, if I'm a kicker and I'm looking at where to go, I would very much look at South Carolina, because I can play with a great group of guys and a coach who's going to bring me up, who's known for special teams. So he's never going to leave me behind. Yeah. He's never going to forget about me,
I mean,
you make a good point, Mike. Like, think about this. Like, these guys that are on this list, I'm looking through it right now, and most of them are like, so, the guys, the teams above us, Ohio State, Texas, etc. They got 5 stars here and there. There were 5 stars coming out of high school. They're like superstars. You go back to what you said about Shane Beamer and the culture. One of the things that we need to touch on definitely is that culture is here to develop players. And I think that is a main storyline that should be talked about, because if you go from, Nicky to TJ Sanders to Josh Simon to Kyle Kennard, Demetrius Knight, Tonka, everybody on this list were like 3 or 4 stars that Shane and
finish it up, Buster. Simpkins, Martin Scott, DeAndre Jules, name them all.
I mean, we can name them all, and every single one of them is a Shane Beamer recruit that he said, hey, you come here, you develop, you're going to get invited to the combine, and you have a chance to be an NFL draft pick. That is a selling point to bring in some top-notch athletes. They don't have to be 5-star guys, because, again, Shane obviously has shown that he can get
5-star guys don't fill out a roster. You're not using a 5th-round pick to draft a 5-star guy. You know what I mean? And we know some of the gems that are in this draft, that will be in this draft after the combine, obviously keeping it to the combine. But who's the sky's the limit? I mean, what I'm saying now, we do this episode in a year, and you add in offensive players that we know are going to be on this list, because we do not. What do we not have on this list? A wide receiver. We don't, right? We will. We should. Yeah. We know we will, because of the new Gamecocks we're talking about and the recruiting that's happening, the NIL that's happening. So for me, this list could grow next year, and we could be number 1 by a couple of slots, and we could have 15. Now, I don't think so. I think the numbers probably bear out that any one team doesn't usually get more than this. But when I look at the Philadelphia Eagles and how many Georgia Bulldogs are on that team, I don't always know that. We'd have to go back and review all those numbers, and that sounds like a lot of work, and more than you guys want to hear about right now. So we'll keep it moving.
I do like the talking about the positions, right? How it's mostly defense, like looking at it, nearly 50% of it. I like the positions of where they're at, right? Like,
I like certain positions too, my friend.
All right, keep it in Jamaica. Okay,
keep it in my Jamaican.
Keep it in Jamaica, man. But you get nearly 50%, 5 out of 11 are all defensive linemen. What do we talk about all the time, man? You got to win in the trenches. So it's nice to see those positions are. Right. What if some team gets nuts and just drafts them all and installs them all on their line? That's not going to happen. Yeah, I mean,
that would be wild if it did.
It's great to see that they're developing at the positions that like really matter. You know what I mean? Like, not just like you can get like we had the years where we had stud wideouts like Ace Sanders and we had like wide receivers that were really good, right? Debo.
No, totally. This is Debo may be on a different team. They're talking trade. They're talking something. He had a down year,
No, the fact that there's 4 defensive linemen, that just says like that's breeding. Like, all right, we're going to be dominant here. Yeah. Right. This is where this is our bread and butter, and I love that.
Yeah. And that's how you can assemble that and become the Eagles, where your shortest lineman is 6'6", and you just towering over everybody. And I feel like it's okay. I know I've said that before, but it's okay to say that because they're the champs. We're going to talk about them as the champs. Same thing with Ohio State. It's just the same. Like Ohio State's going to get more play in this combine because they're the champs. And those guys who got invited from Ohio State are not only as good as all these other guys, but they are also champs. So there's that, and they're champs that know how to lose, because the way Ohio State won that, losing to Michigan, they lost and then they came. That's really what you want out of players. You don't want a guy, that's been undefeated through all of college and has to come in and lose. Kind of like Trevor Lawrence had to do, or a couple other players. And they don't take that well, and their psyche is hurt, and they can't rebound from that. Like Bryce Young, right? Bryce Young looks better now than in the NFL than he ever has. And I think if you're a Panthers fan, you got to be excited. That just took him a year to get into it and feel it out and figure it out. And
but I mean, my question is, if these guys are coming in as big 5-star guys, never lost, playing these big time programs, but are they smart enough to play in the NFL?
Yes, very good.
Isn't there a test?
That would be this test, this Wonderlic test. Now, there's a lot of things you could say about the Wonderlic. It's basically a GMAT. It's supposed to sort of show where you can land in your profession and whatnot. And it's just something the NFL has, I think, is like a catch-all, just to double check some things and have some things written down. But, it's a funny thing to look at, right? We like our 3-down segment, and we shout out the good and we call out the bad. Well, shouting out the good on the Wonderlic, highest score ever, punter, Pat McKinley, the only player to get a perfect score on the Wonderlic, at least as it applies to the combine, was from Harvard. Played primarily on special teams, though he was used as a wide receiver and got a few TDs in his career. Go figure all of that. But this was a long time ago, too. McAnally was chosen in the 5th round of the 1975 NFL draft by the Bengals. He did appear in 1 Pro Bowl and a Super Bowl. And as a punter, he completed 3 of 4 passes for 81 yards. And the little nugget I saw, they said, consider him an Ivy League Taysom Hill, which I was like, okay, well, is he not as strong as Taysom Hill? Knock a guy out? I don't know about that. But I thought that was interesting, again, talking about special teams and punters. And, punters can kind of get into the NFL without having done stuff in college, and they are just kicking the ball. So, but this guy did a little more through some passes
there to all the punters.
Yeah. And now, because I said that, and because this guy was at Harvard, please enlighten me to what you think the other highest score is.
The other Harvard guy. Easy.
It's got to be
Ryan knows
Fitzpatrick, right?
Yeah, it's got to be Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic.
Now, while there were some other scores in between, Fitzmagic did get a 48. No surprise.
What's the highest? What's the highest score you can get? What is it? 50?
50. Yeah, that's a perfect score.
Do we know what type of questions they ask on that test? I've never seen it.
We've heard rumors.
We talked a little in the pre-show before you got here, Sam, and we're thinking maybe a little Wonderlic episode is in line at some point when we get bored.
Yeah.
Should we wear costumes?
I think maybe I'll get you guys the
superhero.
practice. We'll do it. We'll make fun of each other for dumb answers, and we'll figure it out. But as far as I know, it's basically it's a personnel test. It was created in the 30s, and it measures general cognitive ability in math, vocab, and reasoning. So the part that would be harder would be the reasoning part, right? Because it would give you...
What type of math does an NFL player need to do?
How many players are on the field?
What comes
11
after
plus
3rd
11.
down, 4th down?
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, look, there's a lot of math in football. There really is, whether you want to use it or not.
I
right?
guess
We're talking
it's
analytics.
10, right?
I'm just saying,
And I
like,
think if you're a football player, you should understand why you're going for it in a situation and what the percentages are.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting take.
I mean, the math to me is more like, all right, it's 2nd down and 7. How many yards do you need to make to complete the first down?
Right.
3 yards on first, and you know that 10 yards makes the first down. How many yards do you need to gain?
Similar to a basketball player, right? High percentage shots, knowing that shooting from here with your shot is not a good percentage shot, or with the guy in front of you is not a good percentage shot. You need space and stuff like that. So I think when it says math, Sam, I'm thinking more like geometry and physics, that kind of math.
I guarantee if the SATs had football math on it, I would have hit a 1400 in the SAT.
They actually say this is a better interpreter of things than the SAT, so that's interesting that you say that.
I can see that being a better interpreter than the SAT.
Yeah.
these type of questions. I could see that.
It was originally designed to aid in employee selection at companies like AT&T and Oscar Mayer in the 40s, and it has been used by the Air Force, the NFL, the Army during World War II started using it. It's just a way to kind of evaluate, to just constantly being evaluating, right? And then so now to shout out the bad. Now look, one of these obvious and makes it seem like, oh, you see his score, you're not going to draft him. The other one, I wouldn't have mattered. The worst score that I could find that is documented was a 6 and was by a quarterback. Yes, Vince Young. That's now.
Oh, I thought you were going to give us a chance to answer.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll let you do the other one. But
I was going to guess Vince Young because I do remember that being a huge deal back in
give it to you.
2006.
I don't think you would have gotten the 6. You probably would have given him like a 15. But
yeah, I didn't think 6. That seems low.
But expectations were so high for him. It's almost like they put blinders on with this. And I'm sorry, but at the quarterback position, I need a higher Wonderlic score than this. Like I need to think that you're smarter than that. But expectations were really high for him. Some were concerned about his low score. Still, the Titans took the gamble, took him 3rd overall in 2006. Obviously, didn't pay off. And in 6 seasons, Young threw 46 touchdowns and 51 interceptions. Very close to.
I'm having a pretty good season one year. Maybe it was his rookie year, sophomore year, but he kind of regressed after his 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing I remember about Vince Young is just that shot with all the confetti in Texas.
God, that USC game was probably the greatest one-game performance I've ever seen.
That was one of the greatest games I've ever seen in my life. That was,
he did like 250 and 250, something like that, right? Like,
yeah, it was.
And
ridiculous.
the only other quarterback that, for me, that just didn't cut it at all in the NFL and was so great in college. I mean, I don't want to put Tim Tebow in a class with Vince Young, but I think you're almost obligated to mention that because, like, if Tebow had been willing to go to tight end, he might have extended his career. More,
That's neither here nor there. To me, I like the idea that the Wonderlic shouldn't be a tell-all, be-all type of test, but it is if you're looking at a quarterback and the idea is that their decision making is vital for you. So, the successful quarterbacks, your Peyton Mannings out there, your Tom Brady's, in today's game, Josh Allen's, like the ability to have quick thinking, good decision making, and kind of understanding the situation. I'm wondering how much of that is translatable to the answers you give in the Wonderlic.
The reasoning section, I think. Yeah.
So that leads me to say that I don't think the Wonderlic should be a determinant in whether you're going to be a successful player, for your career in the NFL. But I think it should be at least one measure of the many measures that you use to determine if an important position that requires a lot of communication, a lot of diagnosis on the field, which would be a quarterback, say a middle linebacker, that has to call plays, diagnose plays, tell everybody where they need to be. If they can understand patterns and situational awareness, I think that to me is best exampled by some of your answers in the Wonderlic. So that's where I see where it shows some importance. I also believe that a lot of people make out like the scores of the Wonderlic and they'll come up with stories and they'll talk your Vince Youngs to your Ryan Fitzpatricks and stuff like that. It's not that important, but it can be at least a partial marker determinant to whether or not you can.
I would mostly agree. I would just want to add and kind of steer that like a determinant of success in the NFL. No, I actually don't think so. What I think is a determinant of who that individual is, if you haven't had much time with them, a reflection of the school, because I think it actually reflects worse on the University of Texas than it does on Vince Young. He went to school there, he learned there, and this is the best that he did on this test. I think that says something about an education you get at Texas. Sorry, Texas fans. And then I think how he fits on your team, right? The draft is less about the best player getting drafted at the top as the best player who fits the need of the team who is there, right? Quarterbacks are getting taken. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders will get taken very, very early. Not because of the best players at this draft, but because of the best players at quarterback, and they fit those teams based on some of this information, right? if your team runs through your running back and you don't really need a quarterback to be really smart, or you don't have those wide receivers yet, then he needs to be able to do that and hit this one guy. Okay, fine. But if you need him to build the whole team from, like say like the Giants or the Jets need, right? I think that's why the Patriots are sold on Drake May. They like what they see. He's doing what they want him to do. Are we winning? We're not.
There's our Patriots drop, Buster.
Hey, I gotta go with what I know.
There's our Patriots drop.
Sam, you don't have a quarterback to talk about. I don't even know who's going to be quarterback in the Steelers, or I would talk about the Steelers.
Hey, man, listen, anytime we can get an opportunity to drop those Patriots in conversation,
Drake
I'm here
May
for
is
it.
a young quarterback who everyone agrees you agree is a good quarterback, but he's on a bad team. Right, and I don't have
like a true Bostonian.
I could support my shit even more. I could talk about Jordan Love, but Jordan Love is already a full blown success. So I just feel like that's And
I would like to say though,
don't get me wrong, I like Justin Fields. I just have no idea what the Steelers are going to do.
I would love to be able to, and this is my background in statistics and stuff like that. I would love to plot the most successful quarterbacks for all 32 teams, their most successful quarterback in that team's history, and plot where their Wonderlic scores are.
Then we will do that on a Wonderlic episode at some point, TBD in the future, because that does sound like fun.
You guys want to guess what the Wonderlic's, the highest average Wonderlic score by position? Okay, so like by position, the highest average Wonderlic score.
Well, I'd go punter again just because of McAnally.
Ooh,
I would say I'm going to go dark horse linebacker, middle linebacker.
Linebacker finished 7th. So right in the middle.
Okay.
On this list, I don't see defensive linemen or special teams, unfortunately.
Really? With the punter with the number overall?
This is on the Wonderlic website.
Then QB or
quarterback is 3rd.
Ooh.
Quarterback's 3rd.
Tight end?
Tight end's 5th.
Ooh, offensive lineman.
Yes. Offensive tackle is 1st. They have the highest.
Yeah. Those
Wonderlic IQ. That kind of makes sense.
Those motherfuckers are smart.
Well, to wrap up this Wonderlic, I'll go with the other worst score, and I'll let you guys guess. It's a running back, successful running back. Would be the first hint.
All right. So running back, were they in the league for a long time?
Long ass mofo time.
Long ass time.
Yeah.
Did they win a national championship?
I think Hall of Famer.
Okay.
I can keep going. I can give some little hints here.
Did they win a national championship?
I don't have that information in front of me.
George Rogers.
I would say, though, it does not go way back. I feel like this person only recently retired. 15 seasons.
Ooh,
currently stands 3rd all-time rushing yards NFL history.
You
go first.
Yeah, Sam, you go first because I think he's got it.
Frank Gore, yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Good job,
yes,
Sam.
Mr. Gore. Yeah.
As soon as you said like Miami, I was like, dude.
Yeah, inconvenient truth. I don't think he won with Miami though, did he?
He definitely.
Because Willis McGahee was.
It was McGahee. Yeah, it wasn't.
But he got hurt, and they lost to Ohio State.
They lost to Ohio State in 2002, right? 2002, 2003.
Yeah. So there's a guy
after that.
There's a guy that I would have drafted in a second, knowing what I know now, who was only 290 yards behind Walter Payton all time. But obviously was not, winning any Mensa awards for a 6.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Whatever. Again, I think reflects a little maybe on the education you get at University of Miami. I don't know.
Hey, I'll take it.
But anyways, that's our Wonderlic little gag there. Obviously, it is a determinant of some things and does affect, what teams are going to do there. I think it is information that they get that is valuable for what they're doing. Does it determine your success? No, I don't think so.
I think what it does determine is that people need to tune in to our podcast so they can watch or listen to the episode on the Wonderlic, so they'll know more and be more informed, and they will be able to pass the Wonderlic. So that's the main takeaway from this. Pay attention to us. You'll know more about the Wonderlic. You'll be able to pass it, and you'll be an NFL superstar.
You guys want to talk a little combine with some Gamecocks? Let's take some top Gamecocks to look out for in the combine.
Yeah,
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes, yes. We are here for Gamecocks in the Combine, and that's what we said we'd talk about. Enough of this Wonderlic nonsense. Um, so look, right off the bat, Nick Imanwori, safety, is probably the cream of the crop when it comes to Gamecocks at the Combine. He will make an impact. He's someone everybody's looking at. That's kind of obvious. Feels like he's the type of guy where he's been working out ever since he stopped playing for South Carolina. And I'm thinking that he can improve his stock a little comparatively to the other safeties that are there, right? If all the teams
Yeah.
are looking at all the safeties, he is one that stands out among the most and could edge one out if he fits the culture of the team that he's going to, which we'll see who that is. And, we'll talk more about all of this in our draft episode. We're really into here what it is for the combine. Can you improve or not? What's moving, what's shaking at the position. So to that end, Sam's got a D lineman he wants to get into. Who you got for me, buddy?
Yeah, we actually had a pretty big day today. So the combine started today. Defensive
Whoop,
linemen.
whoop.
Yeah, edge rushers, defensive linemen, first ones getting worked out today. TJ Sanders had himself actually he's kind of already starting to win, if from what I understand here. So at the Senior Bowl about a month and a half, a month ago, almost 2 months ago at this point, he I guess it's about 6 weeks ago, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So he came in at 284 pounds. He's 6'3", came in at 284 pounds. And he's kind of struggled a little bit defensive against the running game, just a little bit this year. I'd say most people would say that's probably his biggest knack. Excellent in pass rushing situations from the down lineman position. But he weighed in today, first day of the combine, at 297 pounds. Scouts we put on 13 pounds of muscle. Scouts were drooling all over for him, right? Just kind of just getting drooling down there for him. Another good thing I like about him is his arm length's at 33 and a third. Excuse me one second. Yeah, well, another thing that I like about him, his arm length's at 33 and an eighth. So that's kind of one of the longer arm lengths from checking out all the different defensive linemen that are in the combine right now. So he's already got those a little bit of a wingspan there, obviously bulked up. Obviously, that can really help him out in terms of stopping the run. I see him starting as somewhat as a pass rush specialist this year out of sub packages. He's the 15th overall defensive lineman. Probably when we'll talk about draft status, I don't think he'll be a first round draft pick. We'll get into that closer to draft days. But I think he actually had a big win today. Really big win.
Nice.
Yeah, I was really, really excited to see that. A lot of people are really amped up about him. So great job, TJ.
Yeah, no, Sam, I like your point there because one of the big knocks, and I wouldn't say it's a knock, but when they come out with these guys that are going to the NFL, they have the pros and cons. One of the cons was that for a D lineman, an interior D lineman, he was fairly light at that 284, 285 range, which basically means that, hey, you're a pass rushing specialist on the interior, but your other responsibility is run stoppage. And at 284, you are not going to be able to necessarily plug the holes, be that like cement block that the offensive line can't move, and you'd be able to attack the gaps. At 297, and I'm pretty sure he can get up into the 300 range in an NFL program. So if you get to 300, maintain that athletic ability with those long arms, not only because you still are a pass rushing specialist, but now you become a run stopping specialist, and that's what you need. So I like the idea that he bulked up, and I think you're right. I think that's a big win for him. And again, we'll talk about more like where his draft status is on our draft show, but that can only help a guy like TJ that has already shown his athletic ability, great footwork, lots of speed, violent hands. So yeah, you make a great point, Sam. I love the idea.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I mean, I feel like there was a lot of talk about his first step, right? That he has that first step explosiveness, and then he has that second gear to get through the gaps. Very strong on the lower body, right? Getting through tight creases. Like, yes, the passing defense that he has is there. He knows what he's doing. He sniffs out the quarterback. He can get there. But I think to be a little bit of a contrarian and to just sort of point out some things maybe he could brush off or make people think about less. A lot of people talking about, somewhat undersized, who can get engulfed by double teams. Or if the offense is really disciplined with their pad level, that he can't really get through that. I would, if he can show some of that here, that he's been coaching that and can do that, and a coach can just see that he's working on that, then at the next level he can do that, and he could take a double team and get through it. I mean, you guys have seen some of these players now and the way they deal with double teams, and coaches drool over that. So if he can do some of that, which it sounds like he did a little today, and will do throughout the weekend, then great. And then just the other thing was, and I'm reading this here, lacks ideal raw upper body power. Now I would say, to Sam's point, if he put on 13 pounds of muscle, maybe he doesn't lack it all anymore. So it sounds like he's more working on his faults than he is.
That's exactly what it is.
Beef up his positives.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. He's got the work ethic. I think any way that you want to phrase this, he comes out on top, right? And that's something that NFL teams are going to invest a lot of capital in. Yep. They want to hear that you are willing to put in the work. So whatever way you want to spin this, he's a big winner today.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Now, obviously, that's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel, because we saw what he did today. The other players we're talking about, obviously, we haven't seen yet. But it's nice to kind of kick it off with that. Like we said, we know what Rory's going to do. We've seen TJ earlier. Now we'll get into some of the other players that we're not sure or we want to see. And Buster, you got a cornerback you want to talk about?
Yeah. I mentioned him a couple of weeks ago from the East-West Shrine Bowl, where he was defensive MVP. It's my boy, O'Donnell Fortune, OD. He's from Sumter, South Carolina, which that's special to me because Sumter, South Carolina is where my wife is from. And so a lot of familiarity with that. It's only about 45 minutes east of Columbia, so close by, hometown kid. Love this guy. And what I like most about him is that he came in as a 3-star guy, sat behind some superstars his first couple of years here, like J.C. Horns and Marcellus Dial and Cam Smith, Darius Rush, guys like that. He waited his turn, and then when he got his turn, he ended up showing out 7 interceptions, over 100 career tackles. Obviously, the MVP with that impressive performance at East-West Shrine Bowl, the 100-yard pick six against Notre Dame a couple of years ago. What this guy is showing, and we haven't seen him yet in the combine, the defensive backs go later this tomorrow, I think, or is it?
It might be tomorrow or Saturday.
I can never remember the schedule, but he's going to show out, and one of the things he's going to show out is what he does best that we saw with those center interceptions, that 100-yard pick six, the interception in the East-West Shrine Bowl. This guy is a natural in coverage. He excels in zone coverage. He excels in man press coverage, which means if you are a NFL team and you need a guy that and there are differences in guys that are shut down corners, like your J.C. Horn, Stephon Gilmore's, Revis Island, Darrelle Revis, like those guys. What they did best is that their ability to know what the receiver's doing, know the pattern that the receiver's running, knowing the best position to be in to be able to stay on coverage. The best stat that a corner can ever ask for is that 0 balls got thrown his way. This is the guy that can make that happen. I love his natural ball skills. I love his coverage ability. The NFL scouts are saying that he excels in those things. So I think, in the combine, and, obviously there's guys like your Travis Hunter, naturally in the top few rounds of the draft here.
Yeah.
I think that this combine is going to allow OD to show those coverage abilities and say, hey, this is a way that I can move up in the draft and make you, NFL team, insert here, want me, and you want me to be your shutdown corner. So that's who I'm going with. I love this guy. I love the abilities he has.
Couple questions, Buster.
Yeah, go for it.
Would you call him more of a press coverage guy? I've seen that applied to him quite often.
Well, so here's the hard part is what did he predominantly, and again, press versus zone coverage, it's not that you're good at one or bad at the other. It's what you were put at your college football program. Like if your program has a strong enough line and linebacking core, then you can play a lot of zone coverage or a lot of man coverage because your guys are going to get to the quarterback quickly enough where you're not going to be put in a vulnerable position in man coverage. If you have a good secondary, you can play secondary zone coverage because you can block up the whole field.
No, I know what you mean. I mean,
so I think his abilities, and again,
the way he flips his hips, like that's the one thing I would say that phrase applies to him. He flips
the whole NFL like lingo of when you look at the combine website and then the scouts have all the little jargon.
They're using all kinds of words. Twitchiness.
If you want to look at what he does best, then you're looking at a very good shuttle time, which means he's good change of direction, agility. You want to see
recover quickly.
When they do that one drill where they catch the pass and do this, and then
the one guy got hit in the head a couple years ago.
So that a back pedal where you have to turn and then take off down the field. If he shows that he can do those within whatever parameters they have for a specific time, then that's going to show you that the coverage skills, whether it's zone or man, doesn't matter because it's all about can he make that play on the ball with that fast, twitchy instinct.
Yeah, I was doing some research and people were talking about football players they had met, and someone said they were at way back when they were at a football camp with Deion. And they were asking him to do the backpedal thing, and he was like, "Oh, I haven't done that, whatever." And Deion put his arm around him. He's like, "You ain't no DB, are you? If you were a DB, you would know, and you would have done this, but you're not." Okay, and then the guy said, this was years ago, but that Prime was good and this and that. And I think at a very core level, that was probably when Deion started on his way to being a coach. And could
so I would say
someone and teach them something and let them learn.
If you're looking at the differences between man and zone or man press and zone, from a fundamental standpoint, there's no difference. Because they all require hip transition, fluid hip transition, closing burst onto the ball once the ball is thrown. Being able to be competitive and show a physicality going up for contested balls.
I think now to go to a negative with Fortune, I think his ball skills, yes, elite, maybe beyond elite, but his tackling skills, not very good at all. And I think that shows even more why his ball skills have to come into play. If he can't get his hands on the ball, if he can't get near the ball, that guy might be gone. Because
he actually does. His open space tackling is actually really good. If you look at the film, there were 3 plays, and unfortunately, I don't think I could bring them up because they're on the football's YouTube page, and I don't know
that's okay
and all that stuff. But there are 3 plays. There was one. I want to say it was Vanderbilt, Missouri, and then I believe Oklahoma, where they would throw that wide receiver screen out in the open. And so you have another wide receiver out there. And so the idea is that the screen catcher, the guy that's catching the screen, has to beat one man one-on-one. And in those instances, it was O'Donnell. And all 3 times, he was able to make the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. He's a sure tackler in the open field. Now,
before the receiver gets going, I think the times when I saw him fail and this issue popped up was more near the goal line, where South Carolina was more often than not going to run man coverage in that area of the field, and that as a tackler, he was too high in his approach, and ball carriers could shrug him off, and then it would go for a touchdown.
That's the thing.
You're right. If they're throwing a screen and they're throwing behind the line, he gets time, he can get back there. He wouldn't be approaching high because they're worried about catching the ball.
If you're relying on your corner to make a tackle at the goal line, then you got issues with your safety line.
Right. And a little bit of a coaching thing there, maybe not running man in that area of the field, whatever.
A corner never should be making those kind of tackles. The corner needs to be open field on the outside zone, making tackles on wide receivers. If they can't make those tackles, they got problems.
And then the other bit that he can struggle to get out of the block quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I think that's
evident at the top of his routes,
And that's a lot to do with the strength. So I think the things to work on for, the upcoming draft, obviously to show off in the combine, and then, between here and then pro day and whatever else, he needs to work on his strength and run support. Everything else, like coverage wise, excellent, elite.
Which a coach
Frank,
will coach to and should be coachable. So I feel like that doesn't really hurt him, and you just need the right coach that's gonna do that. So, anyways, that's plenty of love for TJ. We're gonna go on to the other side of the ball and talk about Rocket Sanders. Obviously, a really great Gamecock who came to us in the transfer portal. Really helped out the running game. Really helped out Lenoris being able to move the ball and run this offense. Primarily listed as a dual role back, but some of that kind of languished near the end. I mean, his passing game impact kind of dwindled over the past several seasons. So that might end up relegating him to a committee role, coming out of the combine. But I feel like for him, he's big, he's powerful. If he shows that at the combine, that'll help. If he can catch almost flawlessly, then I think people buy that dual role and that he could potentially be a 3 down back. I don't necessarily think so. I think whatever he does, if it moves him up enough to, I don't know, 4th or 5th round, we'll talk about that in the draft episode. Yeah. But I think it's going to be, who does he get paired with as a quarterback on the field at the combine? Does he know them? Do they help him? That'll kind of tell it, right? Because if you're a running back and you get paired with a quarterback you don't know, you don't like, that's got a weird delivery, that could doom you from the start. And if you're not catching, you're not catching, and then you're not a catching back, and you're a one-trick pony. Now, I think otherwise, I think he's got tremendous frame, tremendous power. We've seen that these big backs like Derrick Henry can keep it for a long time. I don't think Rocket can play as long as someone like Henry, but maybe. Maybe he seems to have a bunch of miles on the tires, but maybe not. Maybe in an NFL offense, and if he's catching the ball a little more. But I think he brings some intangibles that you like. Creativity in the hole, so he can set up some one-on-one challenges for defenders. That's kind of awesome and could be really useful at the NFL level. Yeah. And his straight line and open field speed. I mean, if it's a team that has an O-line that creates those gaps, he can go. He can go the whole way. He's not Saquon, but he's a similar profile. I saw a lot of people saying Brian Robinson Jr. I don't really see that exactly, but I get why they're saying that because he's big and powerful.
He strikes me more as like a Frank Gore type of running back, to be honest. We were just talking Frank
with
Gore.
a better Wonderlic score.
Frank Gore with a Wonderlic score on steroids.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Sam, because I see him listed as 6'0" in some places and 6'2" in other places, and I think he probably really wants that too. So he's not.
Yeah, I think he's just a workhorse, and if you need somebody to touch the ball 20, 25 times, who's not going to fumble a whole lot. I mean, I think he worked on his fumbling this year. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. And I think showing that, he was on the all freshman team and then went from there and built more to his game. Other than the knee injury, which obviously teams are going to want to look at and test out, he seems as healthy as you could be, and it's going to just be a little bit of a fit, so we'll see with that. Moving right along, because I think, we know Rocket, and I just really wanted to hit on how he can improve. We got a couple other players we want to talk about. We're going to stay on offense here, Sam?
Yeah, I can take over. Josh Simon's actually going to be hitting up the combine. He's another Gamecock I have here that you got to watch out for at the combine. I think he's got the most to gain. I think this is his combine to gain. We see a lot of tight ends in the NFL right now that are kind of transitioning, whether it be working into an older role or working into a new offense. Tight ends can be a large part of the offense. Look at Bowers out of Oakland this year, had a monster year. He's 6'4", 260 pounds. He's in between that 10 pound weight. What I like about Josh Simon is his wingspan. We just talked about TJ, his wingspan, 82 and 4/8 is what it's measured. So that puts him in the top 95% of all tight ends in the NFL right now. The end of the year, 40 catches, 519 yards, 7 touchdowns. That tells me he's a great red zone target with that wingspan. I think he could be an excellent second tight end goal line specialist for any team that runs a 2 tight end set package. Maybe a Travis Kelce replacement. I don't know.
Ooh.
It's a deep tight end class. It's
not
possible.
saying he's going to be a Travis Kelce numbers, but could be a second. Maybe the Chiefs draft 2 or 3 tight ends in the draft this year.
I like his athletic ability. So you know what? I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, he's got some other things going for him. If I don't have this wrong, he's a hill topper from Western Kentucky originally. That's
transferred over. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll say this:
he's
a graduate. Sam,
he's a graduate student too, so he should do pretty well on the Wonderlic.
I'm thinking he's gonna have the highest Wonderlic score at tight end. That's my projection.
Okay. Right. And then here, Buster, let me throw a curveball at you. Tell me what you want to tell me about Dalzell, South Carolina, where he's originally from. Which
First of all, I'll say this, Sam. If you're right about this, we're gonna clip this, and if Josh Hyman ends up like showing out in the NFL in the next 10 years, we're gonna keep bringing this up.
Come back.
Sam is a freaking genius. But no, I wait from Dalzell. Are you talking about Bam?
No, I have it as Simon from Dalzell, South Carolina, Crestwood High School.
Where's that? In Sumter? Sumter?
Oh yeah, that's on the outside of Sumter. We don't really care about Dalzell.
Yeah. Well, hey,
to all the good listeners from Dalzell,
we're trying to open our horizons here. We're trying to learn about new places.
All right, if you want to learn about Dalzell, I'll tell you this: they may or may not have a stoplight, but they will most likely have a Dollar Tree. So
makes sense why he could be comfortable at Western Kentucky to start, but then wanted to get back home and be a Gamecock for graduate school. That makes a lot of sense.
Next time you're in Columbia and you decide to go to Myrtle Beach and you decide to take 378, you'll pass through Sumter, and you'll kind of pass through wishy-washy in a way, Dalzell.
Hey, based off of what Sam says, he's going to go for a 3-peat with the Chiefs. Everyone's going to know Will Dalzell, South Carolina.
That's true.
He starts dating Taylor Swift or the next Taylor Swift after that, or whatever happens there. But as far I think we had a couple other guys here, but there was one more on special teams. I think had a special place in our heart here, right, Buster?
Yeah, our boy Kai Kroger. Not affiliated with Kroger grocery stores, so slightly different. I know it's upsetting. I would hope an NIL deal would have worked out.
Well, you did say he did an ad for somebody, right?
No, so he did with Cato's lawn equipment here in Columbia. Cato's is a big time lawn equipment place where you buy your lawn mowers and stuff like that. They do good stuff there. I've used them a couple times for repairs and maintenance on my lawnmower. So shout out to Cato's.
That kind of works that a kicker would really care about the grass.
Yeah, you know? I don't know. I apologize because I don't remember how it got started with the connection between Kai and them. I know that there was a lot of talk about a couple of years ago he should have won the Ray Guy Award for best punter, best kicker, and I think he was averaging those 48.9 yards a punt. I mean, he was just killing it. Last year was a bit of a struggle. He did have a bit of an injury, a long-term seasonal type of chronic issue with his hip. So last year you didn't see the same stats, but he came back this year very strong, still like over 45-yard average punting. Obviously, he has thrown some touchdowns. If Gamecocks can remember from a couple years ago, this guy has the ability to be an athlete. I just like the idea that we have not had the conversation about a special teams kicker, whether it's place kicker, punter, or whatever, getting drafted. I mean, honestly, for me, the last kicker that's ever been drafted, especially high in the draft, actually went in the first round. Sebastian Janikowski out of Florida State to the Raiders under John Gruden.
Let's not forget the great Ryan Suckup, Mr.
Yeah, I was gonna say
2000. Was he 2008, something like that, right?
Yeah, and he was on Tampa Bay when they won.
Yeah, he's won Super Bowl MVP, not Super Bowl MVP, but Super Bowl champion.
Really close though, Sam. The first Mr. Irrelevant to play and win a Super Bowl as a starter.
Is that right?
That's true. That's true.
And we got some other Mr. Irrelevants playing right now. If Brock Purdy were to win one, he would be the second one.
I like
that. He would probably be the MVP.
I don't think we'll ever see a kicker go in the first round like Sebastian Janikowski. But if Kai Kroger can mimic Ryan Suckup's career, then that is an excellent thing for a beloved Gamecock in Kai Kroger. He was very popular here in Columbia, very popular at Williams-Brice Stadium. So shout out to Kai. have a successful combine, an upcoming successful draft, and we're all like rooting for a successful NFL
Yeah.
career.
And we'll throw a little ellipsis on the
Okay.
end too, and we'll throw some flowers to Mitch Jeter because he get drafted as well. He was a kickoff specialist for South Carolina, transferred to Notre
Mm-hmm.
Dame,
Yep.
and kicked
Made
that
the
Great
game
national
winning
game.
kick
championship
in the
game.
Orange
Yep.
Bowl. So that was pretty cool. And then the only other one I have here, which I saw, was Max Kelly. It says Max Kelly, top ranked kicker in the country for the 2024 class. He joined South Carolina special team unit. His father was a place kicker at Liberty. So that's kind of cool too. The
Yeah.
legacy thing. Dad was a kicker. I'm a kicker. Everybody kicks. That's cool. But yeah, so that'll kind of do it for our Gamecocks here at the Combine. We'll see how they improve or not, how it
Yep.
affects draft stock. Obviously, we'll revisit some of what we said when we get into our
Yeah,
draft
we got to
episode.
give our grades to ourselves in like 2 or 3 weeks after the
Yeah,
combine.
Yeah.
See how we
Yeah.
did, because I got
yeah,
a feeling
yeah.
I'm gonna be
Simon
failing.
pulls out, goes to make a rap album, never even gets drafted. Gets featured on the new Wu Tang, which they just announced. That would be great for him, but not for
Yeah.
Steve. Yeah, but obviously, how much the combine can figure into things and shape a player's future based on so many factors, right? Some random test, your injury status, your coach's status, the team status that can be drafted. So much unknown here. Even Mel Kiper is talking a lot about this, but when he puts his lists up, he's not talking about what teams might do and where they might go. He's talking about purely their abilities and at their position. We all know quarterbacks are overvalued. Some offensive players are overvalued. We did not talk about wide receivers and a lot of other quarterbacks. There are a lot of obviously non-Gamecocks that are going to be doing a lot in this draft, but a lot of them won't even be there, right? We talked a bit when we were prepping about Shedeur Sanders not even going to be there, and that's a strategy for him, and it may
Yeah.
pay dividends for him, right? And then what's his name? Number one, Abdul Carter.
Abdul
Some
Carter.
yeah, some info coming out that he's a little hurt and this and that. That could hurt him a little bit. I don't know that it does though. I think when you have a player and they have some kind of little lingering issue, you're still going to draft them anyway, right? And like we talked a little bit about quarterbacks and JJ McCarthy, like that really sucked what happened to him. But he's still the guy in Minnesota. He's
Yeah.
just going to get better, and then he'll be the guy this year instead of last year, right? So
Yeah. I
talent
mean,
is
with
talent.
Shador, it's I don't like. I think people will make a big deal about whether he's skipping it or not. But like you said, I think it is a calculated move considering who his dad is and his connections to the NFL. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Totally get if Abdul has some kind of injury that would you know interfere with his combine results, then yeah, definitely skip it. You still got your pro day.
Yeah.
You still have private workouts with the NFL team. So
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we know the legacy. We know his dad. We know Travis Hunter. There's so much that could happen. There
yeah,
is some
yeah,
random stuff that kind of shows some team might try to make a lot of effort to put Travis and Shador together. That would be amazing, but that would be a lot of effort by a team to do. So we'll see. And Coach Prime's going to be in the mix the whole time. And if you draft Shador, you have to deal with Dion. So you just know that
yeah.
going in. That's better to know than to not. One other player I just want to mention because he's sort of my favorite little blue bowling ball is Ashton Jonty. Probably going to be the only running back in the first round. There's a lot of third round, fourth round talent. Hopefully Rocket could get up into like the fourth round or third, man, probably fourth round. But who knows? I mean, if someone takes Jonty really early, maybe some other running backs go real quick, but he feels like another one on offense who's going to change a team right away. I look at a team like maybe the Broncos or maybe the Cowboys who really need a running back to step in and be a starter right away. That could be Jonty.
Yeah,
And
we can.
I'm really excited to see where he ends up.
I'm excited for us to talk about that in the on the draft episode and see where he goes. So one guy real quick. I'll make this quick. I know we're wrapping up here shortly. One guy I really want to see in the combine do well is Luther Burden. He's been kind of shat on over the last couple of days on 3 on ESPN. Mel Kiper shat on him saying like, oh, his draft stock's dropping. I want him to shock the world, Luther. I think ever since I saw him play against us this year, I think he's a beast. So I'd like to see him do really well in the combine. So I got my eye out for him.
That almost sounds like calling out the bad, and like we're into third down territory here. You know?
I just like when the experts are wrong. You know me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I guess I was reading a lot about James Pierce kind of sliding in mock drafts. I don't know exactly. He was sort of pegged as one of the top edge rushers. And he's kind of, I don't know, behind closed doors. I guess it hasn't been going well, or like the meetings haven't been going well, or something like that, because he just doesn't want to talk to the media. I hate to see that a guy's stock goes down because of the media, but you got to talk to the media, and some guys kind of make a joke out of it, and if you can't deal with that part of it, and that frustrates you and angers you and makes it weird, then I don't know what to tell you. Speaking of the media, I don't know if you guys saw this, and I'm probably pulling from things, but did you see this thing that a couple of media people like fought near the combine?
What? No, I haven't seen anything.
It was like, yeah, it was like, I know I got to bring it up while we're talking, which I hate to do, but I'm pretty sure it was Adam Schefter, and yeah, it was like at a Starbucks, and it was between Adam Schefter and someone from Fox, and they like fought. They were at a face-to-face confrontation. They like fought. Rappaport, yeah. It was Schefter and Rappaport, and they were like talking, and they said they needed to talk, and it got like escalated, and they like fought each other. I never heard about that at all. And I know Shefty is passionate about what he does, but already kind of seems like there's some stuff brewing at the combine, and if it's with the media, that feels rare.
Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport. Those are the two guys that got into it.
It wasn't Shefty, so that was misreported.
It was not Shefty. So it was Fox's Jordan Schultz and NFL Network's Ian Rappaport at an Indianapolis Starbucks.
There we go.
The title of this article I just read is "The Saddest NFL Insider Beef That Led to a Fight in a Starbucks."
Yeah, now look, that is neither here nor there, but if it's happening at the combine, and this is our combine episode, it feels like pick it up. And look, we'll probably unpack that, and if there's more info on that and any charges, we'll let you guys know. But a quick little headline just to throw in there, because it looks like even the media is fired up about this combine, so that's kind of fun. But otherwise, that's probably going to do it for our combine talk. Obviously, a lot happening over the next few days. Check it out. You guys disagree with what we're saying, let us know. Any other players that were there that you want to hear about, let us know. We'll be free to talk about that. And then that'll be a nice segue eventually to our draft episode, and maybe in the long term, our Wonderlic episode if we get our grades together, right?
Yes.
But otherwise, remember to like, subscribe, follow us on all platforms, on YouTube, on Podbean. You can get us now. Our Instagram, at alumni_game, right? Do I have that right?
Yep. Yeah.
And then at alumni_game on Instagram, and then at Alumni Game podcast on YouTube. On Podbean, I got to figure out that link, but we'll get that to you guys so you guys can listen on your way to or fro. And I don't know, guys, stop me if I'm wrong, but I think that's another episode of Alumni
Gamecocks.
There we go, baby.